Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to the garage. Another live with Andy the Gabby Cabby on a Sunday. I hope everyone is doing all right. I hope your weekends have gone well, and good to see you all. I don't know about you, but in my neck of the woods, it's going to be turn the heating up, but we should be all right. We should be all right. Quick hello to people first, and then we will get on with it. I've got a lot I want to talk about this evening, and some of it a little bit eventful. Negu Mums against the Child Snatchers. Good to see you. Hello. Blue Angel 10. Hello. Minge Pump. Pete Nikolic. Saw you in another live the other day that I was watching as well. That's good. Blue Angel 10. Yes. Angela. I love it when you get loads of people having a conversation with one another before the live started. I think that's great. Mark Clay, good evening to you as well. Yeah, tons of it. Hope all is well with the family, Andy. Certainly is. Thank you, Margaret. Had some good news on that front today, and I will elaborate in a little while. I think prayers work, is what I will say. Chris Card, good to see you. Gary Thornbury, John Webb, what's on the agenda? You will find out. You will find out. Blood Nose, working in moderation. Thank you. Johnny Smart, good to see you, my friend, and thank you for all your help and emails. Julie Baldwin, again, one of my moderators, a big supporter of the channel. Thank you. Margaret, we've said hello to. I think, is that everyone? Lord Jim Dandy, good you're here. That's wonderful. Good to see you as well. Stuart, I think. Oh, Collie Dog. There's someone called Collie Dog. Yes, hello to you. Good to see you. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everybody in there at the moment. Right. Got over 100 watching now. How about those thumbs up? Yeah, well, it's 165 according to what I've got factual. But thank you. If you haven't done so, please hit the thumbs up because that does shove me around the YouTube world just like that. Well, got a load of things to talk about. And one of the first things I want to talk about is future live streams. I've been in talks this last couple of days with a couple of people with regard to future live streams. Now, all of you have heard of Preston Journalist, and I've done a couple of videos on this, particularly this week, where his channel got hacked and he literally lost everything. Nearly 50,000 subscribers, his email address, his monetization, and everything else. If anybody hasn't yet subscribed to Preston Journalist, here is the channel name and all the header and everything. Hop across and let's try and help him together get back up to where he was. Now, Preston Journalist and I are talking about doing a collaboration together. I know a few people have asked for that to happen, and that will be taking place next Sunday at roughly this same time, about 9 o'clock. The other person I've been in communication with is a lady. I'm not going to name her just yet, but it's somebody that's had prior problems with the child maintenance service. And she wants to come on and talk about it, her experience, and shed some light on what's been going on. And hopefully that kind of thing will help somebody else somewhere. And that's one of the great things about this, isn't it? We can help somebody somewhere. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the big elephant in the room, which has been in the news all day. I've copped a bit of flack for, and it's only fair that we discuss the situation. I do refer, of course, to the march that took place in London yesterday, the Unite the Kingdom march. People went there to, show their support for Unite the Kingdom. They went there to show their support for Tommy. And, thousands upon thousands showed up. And if Keir Starmer looked out of his window, I'm sure it would have given him pause. And then he probably wouldn't have given a shit like he doesn't usually. I'm always interested how the media and everybody kind of, makes you perceive these things. And I had a look at the news earlier before I came on, and I saw this, which was quite predictable. 4 arrested as thousands of far-right Tommy Robinson protesters rally in London. And you can see they faced opposition from counter-protest organised by Stand Up to Racism. This is the kind of crap that you get in the mainstream media all of the time. But the information that I've been given is that a load of, well, our lot, as we've been described in the news today, were at one end and all the lefties were at the other, and never the twain shall meet, really. Now, I spoke about Paz, and I put this in a video earlier, but I asked him if he could do me a little testimonial that I could play, like a on-the-ground, a bit of coverage as to what went on, really. So I want to play this for you, and I'm assuming a lot of you subscribe to Paz already, but he sent this to me last night.
I started the day off in Whitehall. I spoke to some of the event organisers. They were quite hopeful, even though Tommy Robinson wasn't there. They were disappointed in Lawrence Fox on doing a 180 and seemingly turning on Tommy Robinson because he wasn't there. Not that it was his fault, but the screen was adjacent to Downing Street. If Keir Starmer looked at the gate, he would have seen it. The other side of that, in Trafalgar Square, with the lefties and all the left-wing extremists, and they didn't bother the event one bit. We didn't hear them, we didn't see them, they had no impact, so it was pointless, them even turning up to counter-demonstrate. I then walked up to Victoria Station, where I saw the crowd starting to form, and I spoke to various people, and they all had the same sentiment. They blamed Keir Starmer, and they had massive sympathies for Peter Lynch, as well as some choice words for Lawrence Fox, who they see as a traitor. The march then started off after the crowd got bigger, and I'd say it was as big, if not bigger, than the crowd that was there in July. We made 100 yards from Victoria Station until the police stopped it because it was getting unruly, until the event organisers sent their stewards up to keep everyone in line, which happened eventually. The police then kept them there for an hour. I managed to do a sharp hat through the police cordon thanks to the Voice of Wales, convincing the police I was part of the media. I then made my way down to Downing Street, and I filmed a bit of the stage, and there was a bit of a crowd forming there, but I've got work, so I had to leave early. All in all, it was peaceful. The lefties didn't even impact the march one bit, and I think Keir Starmer had the message as well as Lawrence Fox. And there we go.
Well, there you go. There you go. That was a testimonial from Paz based on what he saw, and he certainly did a live stream the best he could. So it was great and very informative. All of those. He mentioned Lawrence Fox. Now, Lawrence Fox decided not to go. Obviously, someone with a bit of a profile. And he released a statement on his Twitter, basically explaining as such. And here it is. Statement regarding the 26th of October. I'm disgusted by the two-tier justice system which Tommy Robinson has been subjected to. We have normalised the imprisonment of those with whom we disagree. Tommy is now a political prisoner, a situation which shames our nation. I will continue to do what I can to raise awareness both to his cause and the growing tyranny in the UK. Having been involved in the planning and funding of the previous marches and having some understanding of the huge efforts required to make these events pass peacefully, I'm concerned that the current climate makes our task even more onerous. I'm not sufficiently reassured that the preparations which have been put in place to ensure the first marches pass so peacefully is sufficiently robust to make sure this one does the same. I'm sincerely looking forward to being proved wrong. I've seen the speakers list for tomorrow. I don't recognise a single name. Well, that's not strictly true, is it, Lawrence? I cannot share a stage with people I don't know and trust well, and therefore I will not be attending tomorrow's march. I hope it passes peacefully and without incident and is a celebration of our collective rejection of the two-tiered society we've been forced into. Tommy has awakened the people through his dogged determination to seek the truth. He's been martyred for doing so. We have a long battle ahead, and it's so encouraging to see so many support the basic values of free speech, thought and inquiry. Tensions are running high. Peter Lynch took his life in prison this week as a result of an appalling and biased judiciary. I'm not reassured as to how the commemoration of that atrocity, which has been raised in discussions, is going to be handled. Again, I appeal for those who do attend tomorrow to be calm. Nothing would please the regime more than this gathering to descend into chaos. Please don't take the bait. Be calm, be happy, and be many. Now, I understand from what I've been told that he's copped a load of flack for that statement and walking away, particularly because of the heavy involvement he's had in previous marches, and a couple of the things that he's heard to say haven't gone down too well at all. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But that was his statement. Now, we come on to me. I did a video earlier, and here's the thumbnail, about Tommy Robinson's march. Now, this is the second video that I've done on this subject. I did one yesterday as well, and the subject of which was, when you go, I fear that they're trying to bait you into kicking off, causing trouble, being a pain, and giving them all the excuse they need to act on it, report on it, and make this side look as bad as possible. In fact, when you look at the live streams yesterday, and I single out Maya Tusi particularly, there was no problem at all, apart from a load of mouth, which you'd expect at these kinds of things. And then he went over to have a look at what the lefties were up to. And that's where the trouble started. Now, I didn't go. I didn't attend the march. This is something that I regret today, having looked at the reaction, having looked at the live streams that I sat and watched yesterday. And I'm thinking to myself, my thoughts on this beforehand were unfounded. And when there is another march, and that, you mark my words, there will be, I'm coming and no one's going to stop me. I will be there. Now, I was very disturbed by some of the comments that I'd seen on this video, and I want to share some of them with you. I'm not going to put them on the screen for very long because I won't give them that much credence. But here we go. I'm a coward. Paranoia. Someone else calling me a coward. Someone there calling me a grifter. Your safety radar was clicking. Apparently I have a yellow streak. I'm jumping on the bandwagon and I'm disgusted by this person. Apparently BS excuses for not attending. These are the kinds of things that have been thrown my way today. In the main, though, the comments have been positive. They've been very positive, from lots of people saying, thank you, John, I appreciate that. There's been lots of comments from people saying what their experience was like, how they got on and how the day went. That's what I was trying to encourage. That's what I was trying to get people to speak about. And unfortunately, a lot of those comments ended up slipping through the net as well. Now, I explained it in brief in this, in the video I did. And I find it amazing, whenever you go through and you think about things, am I going to do something? Am I not going to do something? There is a logical thought process, or there's a spontaneous decision. Right, I'm doing it. Go. Let's fight the cause kind of thing. Let me tell you, Tommy Robinson was detained on the Friday. Now, immediately in my head, I think to myself, well, that is going to cause an awful lot of bad feeling. People are going to be angry. I then have to decide, me putting myself there, and if anything did happen, what effect is that going to have on the people that rely on me? My wife, my kids, my business, my staff. On top of that, I have a sick mother-in-law in hospital. Up until today, has been very, very sick. And in fact, right at the point of we thought we were going to lose her. First time I've mentioned that in public. So all of those things combined, you have to think to yourself, is it a wise decision to go? There was just that little niggling doubt in my head, and I thought, not this time. But what I did yesterday, I sat there and I had Paz's, I had Maya Tusi's, and I had a few other different live streams from other YouTubers on, and I was actively watching it and keeping up to date with what was going on the whole time. So I was there, just kind of 80 miles away, sat at my desk. As I said today, I regret that decision. I should have gone, and it would have been fine. And I'm one of probably many that fell into the trap and thought, oh, this is a bit too risky. But seeing how safe it was, seeing how, respectful our side was, particularly, it was a credit to everybody. And it certainly looked like there was a lot more there than last time. So to the people that left positive comments, thank you very much. I appreciate it. To the people that left negative comments, some of which not too impressive, but I thank you for your opinion. You're just as entitled to it as anyone else. And that is the full story. Now, you can either take that and accept it or not. It's your choice. And we move on from here. Right. Let's have a quick look at some of the comments that have been generated, and then we will talk about Mr. Tice, because that certainly needs to be spoken about. Philip, the only thing you can trust on the internet is your profile name. Let's see if Andy sees this comment. If he does, he has to read it out to prove he's not a shill, assuming it can be seen by the public. Happy? Good. You should have gone, Andy. Yeah, I should have gone, John. I should have gone. You know, it's funny. If it was a few years ago and I was a single bloke, no commitments or anything else, I'd have gone. No questions. I'd have gone. Wouldn't have given a shit. But there's things you have to run through, and I was wrong. I should have gone, and next time I damn well will. I've already told my wife actually today. When there's another one, and there will be, I'm going. Right, let's get rid of that one. Thank you for these streams, Andy the Gabby Cabby, Asher's Place. Thank you, Asher's Place. I appreciate you coming along and subscribing and for your support. GZH, shouldn't we have ID cards and increase rights for police to be able to stop and search and ask for them? Stop and search is something that's gone by the wayside very much, isn't it? Particularly when you talk about dangerous things on streets and high crime levels. It's something I believe there should be more of, but not to the extent that it infringes on our rights, if you know what I mean. Margaret Yates, I thought Lawrence knew Andrew Bridgen. He spoke yesterday. That's when I said, when I read his statement, that part wasn't strictly true, because I know for a fact there were people on that stage and I've seen him in pictures with them previously. Now, I'm not going any further down that because people end up suing people for pointing out the obvious, and I'm not going to go there. Nigel the Handyman, Donald Trump is standing up for the common man in the US. Perhaps he could coach Farage to do the same here before reform disappears into the ether. Yeah. Now, let's talk about that, shall we? That seems a good place to talk about that. Now, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to cast your mind back. Now, all of those people that turned up in London yesterday want the best for this country. Wouldn't you agree? They want everything to be as it should. Now, the big problem we have is what's happening in Westminster, what's happening with our political discourse, what's happening to our governments. It simply doesn't work. It hasn't done for a long time. Now, you've got a current Labour government blaming the Tories for everything and saying they've inherited a black hole. Black hole of what exactly? And then the Tories were blaming Labour for everything before that, and the rot goes back years and years. Nah, I'm not impressed. I don't know about anybody else. Now, I want to show you this, and, who remembers this? This was the note that was found in the drawer in 2010 when the coalition government took over. Dear Chief Secretary, I'm afraid there's no money. Someone in the Labour government left that note for them as part of a joke. And then the next thing we got was a load of austerity, wasn't it? And now we're met with a Labour government that's blaming the Tories for something, even though the note was left in the drawer before. Don't you think that's a little strange? Don't you think the bullshit goes back a long way? Do you think we're all being treated like fools? It simply doesn't work anymore. Now, because of this, everybody is looking for that hope, that thing that's going to save them all. And everybody everywhere is looking at reform. Now, I've seen criticisms of reform. I've tried to support reform. I've tried to speak out for reform. I have other beliefs in the way this should go, in the way it should happen, but I recognize you can't have everything you want quickly. You have to work your way to it. So, is reform going to work? Is it? Let's give them a try. If it doesn't work, then we have to think of something else. But there's been an awful lot of reaction today where reform appeared to have spectacularly blown it, courtesy of Richard Tice. Now, have a listen to this. And I'm sure many of you have heard it today already, but I'll play it again for you.
Tommy Robinson, people have been protesting in his name. What do you make of Tommy Robinson? Is he a good guy in your eyes?
No. All of that lot, we have nothing to do with them.
Even the protesters who have got banners up saying two-tier Keir, you agree with them on the policing and justice?
We agree with ourselves. I'm not aligning ourselves with Tommy Robinson's lot in any shape or form.
But tell me before we go.
We are not aligning ourselves with Tommy Robinson's lot in any way, shape or form. That one single statement. Yeah, Vivian, Tice's comments were disgusting. That single statement probably alienated today thousands and thousands and thousands of people, which probably voted reform. I don't think he realises the damage that statement has done. I don't think they realise the damage ignoring things that concern us every day, Peter Lynch being one, has done. And people are starting to question, is reform really the answer? I belong to a couple of WhatsApp groups on here, and all I've seen today is talk about what Richard Tice said. Paul Thorpe went online and spoke about what Richard Tice said. He was angry. Everyone's angry. How fucking dare you is the general consensus across the board. You know, I could read some messages on there. I won't because they're, you know, confidential. They're not to be shared, but everybody's thinking, what the hell? Now, those of the left are probably rubbing their hands with glee right now. Because they think, look at the right wingers, they're really destroying themselves with all this. That's because they felt that reform is our only hope of sorting this out. Now, let me paint a picture for you. If we suddenly say reform is no good and the bad stuff starts going on about reform here, there and everywhere, they're not going to have any chance of winning anything at the next election, let alone the council elections next year. And then you're left with Labour, Conservative, Lib Dems, the same rot. It's almost like a safety valve, isn't it? You know, they're in there because we feel safe, we think they can change it. You turn the screw and all of a sudden you're left with what we had before. We don't want that. You know, I've heard people talking about let's support UKIP. UKIP are not what they once were. You know, the leader of UKIP turned up yesterday, but they're not what they once were. And if people throw their weight behind that party, it could be years still before anything happens. Now, this tells me we've got one or two choices. You either support the dark horse, and by God, I'm as pissed off with them as anyone else. They need to back their ideas up. They can't do this. you know, they're sounding establishment as the day goes by. They're behaving establishment as the day goes by. Or we have to realise that the days of party politics are gone. They're busted. They don't work. Now, let's just play this one more time.
Tommy Robinson, people have been protesting in his name. What do you make of Tommy Robinson? Is he a good guy in your eyes?
No. All of that lot, we have nothing to do with them.
Even the
nothing to do with
protesters who have got banners up saying two-tier Keir, you agree with them on the policing and justice?
We agree with ourselves. I'm not aligning ourselves with Tommy Robinson's lot in any shape or form.
But tell me before we go.
Tommy Robinson's lot. At the end of the day, you've got Tommy Robinson, you've got Nigel Farage, you've got Richard Tice, you've got all of these people in the media spotlight, all the people that we look up to, we follow, whose word we take. Hell, a lot of people probably take my word. I'm just a taxi driver sitting in my garage. But what really matters here is the people on the ground. The people that can make the difference, who go down the polling booths and vote at the end of the day. The people who can turn around and say, we've had enough of this. Those are the people that matter. And by Tice saying what he said, he's caused a big problem. I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon. I have to keep an eye on it. I'm sure many of you have made some comments about that, and I want to just cover this last story. And we'll go and have a look at some of those comments and air some of your views, and I'm sure there'll be some colourful ones. The last thing I want to talk about is the Royal British Legion. I find the memory of our veterans very important. My father was in the army. Both my grandfathers were in the army, and a couple of generations before that. I've always had a lot of time for veterans. I've always had a lot of time to sit down and talk, and all different stories and everything else. Unbelievable. And, you know, when we stop every November, my grandmother's birthday is actually on that particular day in November. We think about the sacrifice. We think about those who served. And the symbol of that is the poppy. You know, people buy them every year. And, you know, I dug this off the internet earlier, the red-flowered corn poppy. The poppy is a common plant found in disturbed ground in Europe, and is found in many locations, including Flanders, which is the setting of the famous poem In Flanders Field. The form of commemoration is associated with Remembrance Day, which falls on November the 11th. In Canada, Australia and UK, poppies are often worn from the beginning of November through to the 11th of November, or remembrance, if it falls on that day. Wearing of poppies has been a custom since 1924 in the US and probably earlier in other places. So there you go. You can see the thumbnail with the red poppy there. Quite the symbol that's been with us for many years. Well, look what we got now. That's what some diversity manager has been paid 80 grand to design by the Royal British Legion. You know, all of this money that you give them every year, you know, we get this. What use is that to veterans that need help? What does that do for the memory of our fallen? It's disgusting. Now, there's another YouTuber I am aware of who did a video. I'm not gonna give any exposure to the guy because I think he's a dickhead. But on this, I absolutely 100% agree with him. The RBL has so much money stuffed in their bank accounts that could go towards helping so many people, and they're on fat cat salaries. And you see things like this. You know how much one of those poppies costs to buy if you're so inclined? £8. £8 for that. And how many veterans could that help? How many PTSD cases could that help? How many homeless veterans cases could that help? Unbelievable. Bloody believable. Anyway, it's time to have a look at your comments. We've got 651 watching this evening. I'm really pleased at that number. That's quite high, bigger than we get at the weekends usually. If you haven't done so already, welcome. I appreciate you coming along. But make sure that you hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done so already, because that helps the YouTube algorithm, and it, helps it push my channel around and get it more popular. So I appreciate it. And subscribe if you're watching for the first time. But I was all out for reform, but every week there's one thing after another. After today, I feel let down. There's no way I would vote for them now. Same old, same old. But they are sounding a little bit more establishment-like as the days go by. And I'm finding it's awful to watch. And I'm hoping somebody somewhere can get to them and say, look, you lot, this isn't what was voted in. You need to change. I mean, some people are genuinely thinking now, have we been had? Who knows? I mean, I've had dealings with people in reform that are normal people, the rank and file of reform. I've spoken to them, and they just want to do good. They want things to be as they should. And this showing that we've had on the TV today in the media, it's a piss poor showing, to be honest. Really, really is. Richie reports Starmer is in Samoa. That's very true. He is, isn't he? Talking about slave reparations and everything else. That's a video for another time, isn't it? Margaret, from what I saw in the live stream, it was all very well behaved. I didn't see any trouble at all from the UK. Right? No, from what I could see from the streams I looked at, there wasn't any. There wasn't any. It was all pretty good. Anne-Marie, I mean, the only delay, I think, was because they had a little bit of a delay building the stages. Anne-Marie, did you all see what happened to Maya Tusi? He's had to attend with 3 bodyguards to keep him safe. The left, yeah, I did. And I think they had to get him out of there, and I think the police helped as well, didn't they? Victor Meldrew, Calvin Robinson, you believe is a shyster. I don't watch enough of Calvin Robinson to pass comment. I don't. But, again, that's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. Margaret, actually, I think Lawrence is a bit patronising in that statement. It comes across to me, he decided he didn't want to go. And for somebody with a social media profile, which, let's face it, is fairly sizable, you have to justify that decision. And like I found with my own decision and the remarks and comments today, you're going to cop a load of crap from certain quarters, and other people are going to understand. And you've got to give a reason, because people live by what you say. And that was his decision. That's what he did. And just for transparency's sake, I don't know Lawrence, never spoke to him in my life. I just say what I think and feel from what I read and see. Margaret, I didn't think the people going would be a pain. I knew they would hold themselves up and not take the bait. I would have gone if I'd have been able to, having listened to Peter Thorpe. Do you mean Paul Thorpe? But yeah, I get it. I get it, absolutely. Looking back on it now, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? I should have gone. Tim Healy's live stream was a good one. Okay, that's another one to check out. Thank you, Richie. I appreciate that. Loads of information about this. Alan, bought, lies, dictatorship, two-tier justice. How free are the UK public? Every so-called new political party are just the same. The UK public are on your own. The police were digitally photoing. Knowledge is power. There's one thing I'm starting to realise. Knowledge is power. We have all these rules and regulations, legislation and everything else surrounding us every day, don't we? And we have to really work out what our rights really are, what we can, can't do, what we can say, what we can't. And, I'm seeing more and more people realise that and trying to do something about it. Atheist DNA, pay no attention to these haters and bullies. Here we go. As a pensioner, I've had similar abuse because I didn't go and support reform. Some reform meetings I've gone to, they've been actually frightened of abuse they've got. You know, people are very frightened of what can be said about them. GZH, you do a great channel and do far more good work for your daily work on here than one protest every 6 months. Thank you very much, GC. I appreciate that. You know, somebody called me just an armchair critic. That was another comment I got, and I thought, I'm not an armchair critic. I don't sit on an armchair. I walk around, I drive a cab, and I sit in my garage. But somebody asked me at one of these reform meetings if I wanted to get involved, and I thought, no, I do far more good from out here talking about the things that matter. At the end of the day, I'm just a normal bloke, and I can let you know what I think. Either it resonates or it doesn't. That's the thing. Steve, the left always accuse you of being what they are themselves. BLM are proofs of this. Yeah. I mean, when Maya went and had a look at that side, they were vile. Absolutely vile. And then you go to our side. It was just respectful and peaceful. All right, loud. Those kinds of rallies and stuff are, but there was no trouble. Jason, anyone see that new law they want to pass in USA where the military can use force on US? I've read a couple of rumbles about that. Funky Prepper was one, and I think Redacted covered it as well. All very convenient timing again, isn't it? Considering what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. Interesting. Miss Herbs, I was there being pushed. People were lovely. Tommy asked that people didn't kick off, and they didn't. Yeah, I mean, that was the fear, wasn't it? That him being locked up like that was an incitement, and nobody took the bait. Nobody did, and it was wonderful to see. Everyone should be very proud, and yet again, I wish I went. CSR Vids, looks like my local town of Great Yarmouth is going to end up with the ship-carrying fertiliser in the English Channel in our local dock for repairs. You are joking. Last time I checked Marine Tracker, that was still not far off the coast of Margate, I think, about 13 miles. I'll tell you a funny story. I went to my mates and I saw this ship off the coast and it looked like the picture. I said to him, is that the ship? And he said, yes, mate, it is. It's been there all week. So I did a little video and said, look what I spotted. Yeah. Turns out it wasn't the ship. So I had to quickly retract what I said. And I actually saw it on Marine Tracker. It was about 13 miles off the coast, but I've not checked that recently. Great Yarmouth. My God. Last time I went to Great Yarmouth, I think I was about 12 years old. I've not been there for years. Cosmic Wartoad, coming soon. Midnight knocks on doors of people who think for themselves and do go along with the narrative and toe the line disappearing. Checkpoints on roads and police asking to see your papers. Where have we heard that one before, Cosmic? Yeah, it feels like that, doesn't it? Air first. They've set our countries on fucking fire to keep the rest of the world warm. Seen a few burning, haven't we? Seen a few burning. All the best to you. PJ Mosley, there's an increased sense of rebellion in this tiny island on which we all struggle to survive. You know, you look at what happened in London. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people turned up. All peaceful, probably vastly outnumbered. Law enforcement that were there and any hope of containing anything. And really what that does is send a clear message. Me and this lot have had enough. People are going to start noticing after a while. And, you know, time after time after time, I've seen people say they don't work. But if you turn up in enough numbers and just stand there and look and say, no, we don't want this anymore, people will listen in the end. What does Noel say about Tice? Nothing so far. I did message him earlier, the link. And I said, you know, big mistake. I've not had a response. You know, he's not obligated to respond to me. I just messaged him. If he does, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Noel is a very busy man, and he's a good man. Noel is one of these that is, you know, reform rank and file, that wants to change things, that wants to do good. That's That's the kind of thing that reform should be. And anything at this top echelon, not impressed. If he's got something to say, I think he will say it. Pete Nikolic, a proud member of that lot. Yes, anyone that's a proud member of that lot, give me a 1 in the chat. Let's see how many of that lot we've got in here this evening. Margaret Yates, if he has to disalign himself from us because of the MSN, etc., there are nicer ways of doing it. I do wonder how much of this comes down to party politics and trying to fit into that system. I do wonder. It's all going to play out. It will over the course of months, couple of years, whatever. That's going to happen. How it plays out, I don't know. I mean, later on in today, earlier on actually, I heard talk about the Tories and Reform merging. No. It keeps cropping up every now and again, and I hate it. Yeah, it gave me pause. That did, Lisa. Absolutely. Gave me pause as well. They certainly shot themselves in the foot today. It's getting very tight here now as to whether voters ditch them or not. You have to think about something, Nicola. A lot of people in this country, I mean, you look at the Labour majority, it's a ginormous majority, and they got in on what, 34% of the national vote? That's not really significant if you compare it to the majority that they've got in the House right now. There's thousands, if not millions, of people out there that haven't voted because they feel, what's the point? All those millions of people do is give tacit agreement to the establishment to do what they like. There's millions of people out there that say, I won't give consent to the system by voting. If you don't, you remove your own consent by not consenting, because again, they'll do what they like. If you go and vote for a party that, it depends how quickly you want change. If you go and vote for a party that hasn't got much of a chance of winning, 60 million people have got to go and vote for that party to give it any chance. Otherwise, it won't happen. The whole system is key to keep them in power, and reform have got to the point they are. So we think, oh, it might be. And then Richard Tice does that today. People have really got to think what they're going to do next, and don't act on anger, don't act on impulse, just think, really think. I can't implore everybody enough. Rosemary, you lot are playing right into the hands of the lefties. This is just what they wanted. Well done for falling for it. It's the only hope. Rosemary, like I said, there's a lot of anger today and a lot of infighting and messages flying around. I've seen them all. And, you make poor decisions. If you get angry, you have just got to think about what's going to happen next. And I think some damage limitation from them needs to come out. Richie, reformer in danger of becoming Tory light. They've got policies from both sides. They've taken policies from the left and the right, which they feel have merit. And, they've put them in what they call the contract of the people. So, there's some merit to the idea, but, Cosmic Walto coming soon. People who don't follow the narrative and criticise, knocks on the door. Yep, we've had that one. I don't know why that's come up twice. Weird. UKIP have said they're dedicated to destroying reform. That's Richard Ingman that said that. Okay. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. I'll tell you what, I followed and I supported UKIP when Nigel Farage was still leader, because I believed that was a chance of getting them out. Tories and Labour, I believed at the time that was a chance of get them out. That's the chance reform represented. And now UKIP, I've seen them described as a pressure group instead of a party. We'll have to see what happens. But one thing is clear, they know all the right things to say, don't they? They know all the right things to do to appeal to people. Nikota, Sacred Light Warrior, we have to know the whole truth about all of them, as only then can we rebuild from the community. So much divide. It's about unity, coming together for the betterment of all UK. I agree. I mean, that's where party politics has a very divisive way of splitting people up, making everybody argue amongst ourselves. You know, you have the left, you have the right, and you know there's a mixed bag of people that watch this channel with all different political ideals. Political parties have just divided all of us, and we don't seem to have one single unifying opinion about what's good for this country. You know, we all go off in our different directions and support who we want to support. We get very tribal about what party we want to throw our weight behind. You know, hundreds of years ago, probably 300 or 400 years ago, the party system that we have now didn't exist. There was no United Kingdom. There was no Great Britain. There was a hunk of land in the middle of the ocean which had on it Scotland, England, Wales, and across the sea there was Ireland, and you know, at some point Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, all independent countries. The Parliament in Westminster was an English Parliament, smaller, accountable, people in there that were elected and voted in by their communities to serve their communities for the betterment of their communities. It says all of this in the Magna Carta, for crying out loud. All of this we've been made to, and we've been forced to forget by those in power right now, because they can ride roughshod over everything that we hold dear, because they want to guide the country in another direction. We have to get back to basics, people, if we're going to save it. But that's not going to happen overnight, is it? There has to be a path. There has to be a progress towards that. Pete, problem is Tice and Farage have achieved their goals. Well, they've achieved a goal, haven't they, Pete? They've got in. They've got in. Is that their only goal, or is there more? We'll have to see. Michael Hancock, I'm a Heritage Party member at the moment, too small, but time to grow. Do we have that much time? This is the thing. How much longer do we have to wait? Andy NJW, people will vote for Tories and Reform to get Labour out, splitting the vote, leaving Labour with a high chance of winning. We've got a few years to convince people that neither of those first two options are any good, Tories and Labour, and they all have to vote for something else. Everybody has to vote for something else, or this just ain't going to work, is it? Clearly. Margaret, I can't believe what Anne Widdecombe said about Peter Lynch here. That was disgusting. I mean, that's one thing my aforementioned friend from Reform said. You know, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Collie Dog Tice, you've kicked your voters in their face. How many thousands of people out there voted that he's called that lot? Unbelievable. I'll be interested to see what the news says tomorrow. One by one, they expose themselves. True patriots wouldn't get near a media centre in London. No, they wouldn't, Stephen, would they? You're right there. Or they'd let him in to set them up. You know, I can tell you another story. I had a Facebook message from a lady called Mariana, and asking me that if I could contact her and talk to her about something. I can't remember what it was now, but I recognised her immediately. It was that nice lady that's in charge of the BBC disinformation department. And when I let her know that I rumbled her, I never heard from her again. So, you know, they're at it all the time, all the tricks. Yogi Bear, what we need to do is let's see what Farage comes back with after such a backlash. Correct. Let's see what tomorrow brings. Go from there. Pete, I've kept it clean tonight, Andy. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And, you know, I don't blame you if you wanted to be something else. Legion has sold out. Yeah, a multicoloured poppy for £8. I don't think so. Kick in the teeth and an insult. You know, there are many military charities out there that help and, you know, deal with veterans every day, and you have to wonder how many of those pay their chiefs hundreds of thousands and have got a big excess in the bank worth millions and a property portfolio. You know, PTSD, for example. I've read loads and loads of instances of where somebody can go into combat, see some horrific things that people shouldn't, and they come back and it doesn't hit them till years later, and they need help. Where is it? £5 super chat from Dark Arts Dave. Thank you very much. Sad days. Knew something was up when Tice went to Ukraine. You do an amazing job, Andy. Fight, fight, fight. Thank you, Dark Arts Dave. I appreciate it very much and do agree with your comment somewhat. Ian, British Legion is a scam charity. Always has been. Yeah, again, look into their assets and it'll tell you. Bank of England runs this country now, and all MPs work for them. Yeah, we blame the MPs for everything, don't we? Because they're the ones we see on the telly. They're the public-facing part of all this. But you know, who runs the show really? That's what you got to ask yourself. RBL worth 83 million, but yet veterans still living on the streets. Dean hit the nail on the head right there. Thank you for looking that up, clarifying it. Mole, I don't agree with the gay flag being attached to the poppy. Many people won't. Many people won't. And it's some diversity twat trying to ram it down everybody's throats. No good. I'm an ex-serviceman. I will not be buying one this year. Disgusting. Well, my contact that told me about that still has their poppy from last year. And that's the one they're going to wear. And the same contact said that they've contacted their regional manager for reform about what Tice said on the news today. They're not happy with him either. So I think internally there's going to be a bit of a shitstorm. If I get any information about that, I'll let you know. Duncan, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Nigel Farage will find a way to con the people to vote for him to become PM in 2029. I'll tell you what, when he was head of UKIP, and when he was standing in the South Thanet seat, which is where I live, he went around every single pub, you know, never mind hustings. He did his own hustings. He went around every single pub in the area and spoke to big crowds of people. And my local boozer, which funnily enough has been knocked down now, he went there and I thought, I'm going. I want to see. See, I do go to these things. And I listened, and I took two things from it. There was an awful lot of charisma from the guy. He just very confident. And number two, he could work a crowd. And, you know, you multiply that up to national media, the press, politics, and everything else. Very, very powerful person, can achieve anything with the right words, the right phrasings. You know, it's an incredible skill, and I did see it firsthand. So we'll have to see what he comes out with, if anything. Alan Dillon, when you leave this world, you hope you leave it a better place. Real change is needed. Too many criminals have taken over countries. Good causes. Well, one thing I've been looking at recently is the incorporation of our country. You know, when you look at all the different elements of you know, everything that surrounds us, from councils to governments and everything else, and look up different entries on Companies House. It's something. It really is something. Go and have a look, folks. Nikota, Sacred Light Warrior, we need to look after our veterans at a high. We need to look after our veterans, full stop. I mean, you look over at, you know, the US, for example, veterans are held in utter reverence and are looked after. And they even have a thing, I'm not sure whether they still do, but they had a thing called the Stolen Valor Act, where if, you know, you had a Walter Mitty going around with medals they didn't earn and everything else. Bad move. And you don't really have that sort of thing over here, and you should do. Alan Hoyle has signed the pledge. Yes, I implore everybody to go and have a look. Pledge.org.uk. It's something that Paul Thorpe has spoke at great depth about, and you know, it really does hit home. So go over it and sign it if you want to. You know, that is the thing. David, what you got in for trick or treat? Not knocking on your door for nothing. Well, I don't know if you know, David, many people on the channel will that have followed me for long enough. I have a now 11-year-old son. And in years previous, we used to take him trick-or-treating around the housing estate. And we used to leave a big box of sweets on the doorstep while we were out with a big arrow saying, help yourself. And sometimes the kids would still knock on the door. And we got one of these Ring doorbells. And I used to go on and say, you know, thing of sweets, go and help yourself. And more often than not, we come home and they're all gone. So, yeah, just sweeties, really. But I think he wants to go out with his mates on his own this time. Dark Arts Dave, too many times now Reform have made oopsies. This time it was intentional. My last straw. Cancelled my membership today, along with my family. What a shame. Just can't and won't be able to trust them. I'm with you. I agree with you. And I know what you're saying. But what I want to do is see what happens over the next couple of days. You know, like I said about my decision about whether to go or not yesterday, I sit back, I think about what I've seen, what I've heard, think about the logic behind it, and then make a decision. That's, you know, you have to do that. You don't be impulsive, just wait and see what happens. But you're probably right, and I can't blame you for what you've decided to do. Steve Allen, Andy, are you going to do a live chat on the budget? I guess Labour will lose more future voters. Who can replace them? I intend to either do it as it happens or a reaction afterwards. One of the two. I will do something. I'm actually on the 31st on a long job. I'm actually going to be in London for the day. I'm on a job taking some passengers up to look at a museum. But, you know, on that basis, it might be a reaction afterwards. I have to see how it plays out. True Flight, I'm in Woke, London Central. I'm under NHS mental health, Woke with most severe diagnosis. Wrote to Trump, I'm an Asian Muslim, and because of this, people sound horns. My house 10 minutes, 2-tier, because of me. Bless you. I hope you're okay and everything gets sorted out for you. But it's not a nice world, is it? All some bricks. Why does the Church of England worship? It's gone all skewed, that, hasn't it? You know, you hear some of the stuff that the Archbishop of Canterbury comes out of, for example, and you think, what the hell? You know, I believe in certain things, but, you know, I won't go down that road. And again, Andy, will you knock the shit out of that punch bag in a minute? It's been tempting the last couple of days, I tell you. Deck, what do you think about Reform using Hate Not Hope to vet its members? I thought that was an awful idea, to be honest with you, considering all the stuff that organisation comes out with. I thought it was an awful idea. And you look at some of the people that were removed and banned from Reform as a result. Yes, they may have said some stupid things in the past, but, you know. Jean-Marc, what are you drinking, Andy? Soft drink. A soft drink. Hi, Andy. Do you follow Neil Oliver? The Coast Guy, his awakening is an interesting story. Neil Oliver's one I'm duck in and out of. I don't watch him consistently, but I duck in and out of. And yes, you know, a lot of his monologues are very interesting. Nigger Mums against the child snatchers. Let's all have a big bonfire and don't forget the fireworks. Yeah, Guy Fawkes, anyone? Absolutely. Where are we? John, I've left work on low pension due to health reasons. Only 59. That's hard. Health comes before work now. Health and family and everything should come before other things all of the time. It's hard, isn't it? And, you know, knowing now what I should have known then, I do believe that you've got to start planning for retirement early, really early. I tell this to my eldest son, because otherwise you get further down the line. It's difficult, and you know they're making it more difficult. If they had their way, we'd all be working till the end of time. Alan Oliver, love from Alan and Carol Tipton, West Midlands. Thank you very much. Back at you. Appreciate your support. Andy the Gabby Cabby, I will not vote until election promises and manifestos become legally binding contracts. I mean, this is a part of the thing about the pledge, isn't it? This is a part of the thing about the pledge, which people are looking at. And I agree with you. If you're not going to do what you say, you should be given an amount of time. And if you've not done it, fuck off. Let someone else try. Paul Quinn, Reform won't let anyone on the run-up to the elections. They're asking people who were associated with TR, they were asking them to ask Tommy to back them. Now they have a little power. They turn their back. This could be a very telling time, I think. Preston Journalist, great show as ever, Andy. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that and look forward to doing something with you next weekend. That'll be great. And send me that picture I asked for. Andy, do you remember saying you would talk about the possibility of a completely new system? Yeah, I do remember that. I do remember that. And, you know, you say a completely new system. It reminds me of the saying, everything that was old is new again. I think that's part of where we have to look back a little way to see the way things used to work, and can that be used to go forward again. But I've not forgotten I said that. I don't forget a lot of things. Or some bricks, why is the supply of monarchy not put on to competitive tender? I don't know. You ask a lot of questions about the system, don't you? When you start to think about things, we gave up our guns for this lot. You know, they talk about that in America, don't they? The Second Amendment, an awful lot. And I think there'd be anarchy if they change that. Why did we roll over so easily here? Nobby Clark, I'm a veteran, been homeless twice since I came out. The RBL haven't been helpful. Had heard that quite a few veterans were in the RBL HQ, been sidelined, moved on, replaced by Oxbridge Libs. It's disgusting, isn't it, Nobby? It really is disgusting. I mean, my dad was one of the lucky ones. He came out of the army in 74, 75, something like that, and joined the transfer to the civilian police straight away. So was never without a job, was never without a home, and any adverse effects from Northern Ireland had to be dealt with somewhere down the line, and he had the support. But so many veterans out there just get shot in the foot. They really do. Dark Arts Dave, there are other charities you can support, smaller ones that do so much for vets. My money will go to them, and I will wear my old red poppy. Good for you, Dark Arts Dave. Good for you. That's it. There's so many smaller charities that do get, popped by the wayside. Charles Mitchie, all money grabbers, politicians. I'm a veteran, 70 years of age now. I've seen it, and my pension has been cut. Yes, it's awful. You know, you should be looked after. All of you should be. Paul, what can we buy other than a poppy to show our vets gone and still here? We still care. Well, there's the normal poppy. Is it? There's got to be other ways, other charities, you know. But an £8 thing, ugh. Ash's Place, yes, the government should fear the people, not the other way around. The Second Amendment seems to help with that over in America. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing they forget, isn't it? We put them there, and we can take them out of there in the current system, or that's it in theory. That's it in theory. Anyway, thank you very, very much, everybody, for joining me this evening. Don't forget, next week, there's going to be one live stream, definitely, possibly two, depending on my discussions with my second person. There'll be Preston Journalist at 9 o'clock, and hopefully there'll be one before at 7:30, where I'll be having a chat of an hour or so with someone about the child maintenance service. But, you know, fingers crossed on that. Fingers crossed on that. We'll see how we go. Before you go, if you haven't done so already, can you please hit the like button? Appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. You like what you see. Videos come out every day. We're doing really well. Doing really well. I appreciate all your support. Ever so grateful. If you're on social media, you can find me on X. Follow me over there. on Facebook, Instagram. I think that's it, really. And I hope everything continues to grow. I wish you all peace and happiness. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And as always, I look forward to talking to you again soon. Toodaloo.